The night my husband tried to kill me, the air in our bedroom felt strangely cold, even though the heater was on. His arms were around me, his breath soft on the back of my neck, and he was whispering how lucky he was to have a wife who never gave up on him. I remember staring at the wall in the dark, thinking, I would die for this man. I didn't know he had already decided that I should. I had stood by Ryan when everyone else had walked away. I defended him when coworkers called him a liar. I defended him when my parents said he was using me. I defended him when rumors started about missing money and shady deals. I defended him even when my own best friend Ava quietly asked me if I was sure about the man I was marrying. I said I was. I said they didn't know him like I did. If you've ever loved someone so hard that you ignored every warning, if you've ever fought to save someone who was secretly breaking you, stay with me. And if my story hits a nerve, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what you think I should have done differently. I read everything, and you are not alone. My name is Emily, and I wasn't the kind of woman people expected to end up in a story like this. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, in a beige house with blue shutters, and a mom who baked pies for neighbors even when she was exhausted. My dad worked double shifts at the factory. We were never rich, but we were steady, safe. I used to think that if you did everything right, life would be fair to you. I moved to the city at 23 to work as a loan officer at a mid-sized bank. My life was simple: work, gym, microwave dinners, FaceTime with my parents, occasional brunch with Ava when our schedules lined up. I watched friends get engaged, get married, post smiling photos with men who seemed to adore them. I wanted that. I wanted a partner, a home, a future. I met Ryan at work on a Tuesday that started like any other. He walked into the bank wearing a navy suit that had seen better days and a tie that was slightly crooked. He had messy brown hair, tired blue eyes, and a smile that looked like it hadn't been used in a while. He stood at my desk with a folder clutched in his hands, trying to look confident and not quite succeeding. "I'm here about a small business loan," he said. "I was told you handle complicated cases." His voice was soft but urgent. There was something vulnerable in it, something that made me want to lean in instead of push away. I introduced myself, and he shook my hand, his grip warm and firm. When he sat down, I noticed his shoes, clean but worn around the edges. A man trying really hard to look like he was winning when he was barely hanging on. I went through his application. The numbers weren't great. His credit was shaky. His business, some kind of home renovation company, had more expenses than profit. There were late payments, outstanding debts. It was the kind of file I was supposed to stamp with a polite no. But he didn't sit there like someone trying to trick me. He sat there like someone who had been kicked over and over and still somehow believed he could stand again. He told me about losing his first partner to a bad deal, about equipment getting stolen, about clients who never paid. He told me about sleeping in his truck some nights to save money. He talked about second chances with a kind of desperate hope that settled under my skin. "I know my file looks bad," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I've made mistakes. I trusted the wrong people. But I'm not a scammer. I just need a break. Just one person to believe I'm not what the papers say I am." I should have said, "I'm sorry, we can't approve you." That was the rule. Instead, I found myself asking more questions about his plan, about his projections, about what he would do differently if he got a second chance. He answered everything, not with polished business language, but with raw, clumsy honesty. In the end, I couldn't approve the amount he wanted, but I helped him restructure his application. I suggested a smaller loan. I spoke to my manager, pushing for him harder than I usually did for clients. I told myself I was just doing my job, but there was more to it. He came back a week later when the loan was approved. He walked in with that same crooked tie, but his smile was wider this time. When I told him the news, his shoulders sagged in relief, and for a moment, I saw how heavy his life had been. "You just saved me," he said quietly. "I know you probably don't see it that way, but you did." I laughed it off. "Just doing my job." He looked at me for a long second. "Can I say thank you properly? Maybe dinner?" I hesitated. There were rules about clients. There were rules about boundaries. There were rules I had always followed without question. But I was lonely, and there was something about him that pulled at me. "Just dinner," he added, as if sensing my hesitation. "No pressure, no weirdness. I want you to know you're not just another banker to me." I said yes. We went to a small Italian place around the corner, the kind with dim lighting, cheap wine, and red and white checkered tablecloths. He told me about growing up in foster care, about never really having a family, about building everything from scratch and watching it fall apart again and again. "I'm not good on paper," he said with a self-deprecating smile, "but I swear I work harder than anyone you know." Something inside me softened. I had grown up in stability. The chaos of his life felt tragic, romantic, full of pain I wanted to soothe. I started to picture myself as the person who could help him build something better. That night, when he walked me home, he didn't try to kiss me. He just held my hand for a moment and said, "Thank you, Emily. Not just for the loan, for looking at me like I'm not trash." Those words stayed with me. Our relationship moved slowly at first. Coffee near my office, late-night texts, occasional dinners where he would come straight from a job site, hands still smelling faintly of wood and plaster. He was rough around the edges, but he listened when I talked. He remembered what I liked. He asked about my parents, my dreams, my fears. When rumors started, I was already in too deep. One of my coworkers, Jenna, pulled me aside in the break room one day. "Are you seeing that contractor guy?" she asked. "Ryan, what's his last name? Miller?" I froze with my coffee halfway to my lips. "Why?" She shrugged. "Just be careful. I heard his name from one of the other branches. Something about a payment dispute or a complaint. I don't know the details. Just watch yourself." I went home that night with her words echoing in my head. When I asked Ryan about it, he sighed heavily. "Of course they're talking about me," he said. "Nobody ever talks about the clients who ghosted me or the checks that bounced. They only remember the part where I'm behind. I'm always the villain in someone's story." I looked at his face, the tired eyes, the small lines around my mouth, and my instinct to defend him kicked in. "I believe you," I said. "People love gossip." He smiled with a kind of sad gratitude. "I don't know what I did to deserve you." That line became a refrain in our relationship. Every time something went wrong, every time someone questioned him, every time I put my reputation on the line for him, he would say it. "I don't know what I did to deserve you." When my parents met him for the first time, my mom was polite but distant. My dad watched him like he was solving a math problem. "So, Ryan," my dad said over dinner, "what happened with that complaint at the bank?" Ryan didn't flinch. "I told Emily about that," he said. "A client claimed I overcharged them. They left out the part where they added extra work and refused to pay. People lie when money's involved." My dad nodded slowly, not convinced. After they left, my parents asked if I was sure about him. I got defensive. I told them they didn't see how hard he was trying. I told them they were being unfair, judgmental, suspicious of anyone who hadn't grown up like us. I think that was the first time I chose Ryan over my parents. Ava met him a few weeks later. We were sitting in a bar downtown, her in her usual sharp blazer and heels, me in a dress I'd bought specifically because Ryan once said I looked beautiful in blue. She listened to me talk about him, eyes narrowed, sipping her drink. "He sounds intense," she said. "He's been through a lot," I replied. "He's just trying to rebuild." She shrugged. "Okay, let's meet him then." When Ryan arrived, he was his best self. Charming, humble, funny. He made Ava laugh with stories about nightmare clients. He praised me in front of her, saying I was the only reason his life hadn't completely fallen apart. He talked about wanting to deserve me, wanting to become the kind of man people would trust. On the way home, Ava walked with me to my apartment. She was quiet for a few blocks. "What?" I asked finally. "You don't like him?" She hesitated. "I think he's compelling," she said slowly. "But I also think he's very good at making people feel sorry for him." My chest tightened. "You think he's lying?" "I think he's used to survival," she said carefully. "And people who spend their whole lives surviving learn how to tell stories. Just promise me you'll protect yourself. Don't sign anything for him. Don't lend him money. Don't let him blur the line between his problems and yours." I bristled. "You sound like my parents." She smiled sadly. "Maybe that's not a bad thing right now." I went home that night, annoyed. I told Ryan what she'd said. He listened, then exhaled slowly. "I get it," he said. "She loves you. She doesn't trust guys like me. I can't even blame her. People like me don't get the benefit of the doubt." "I trust you," I said firmly. He kissed my forehead. "That's all I care about." We moved in together after a year. My small apartment became our small apartment. He brought his tools, his battered toolbox, his worn-out boots. He fixed shelves, painted walls, installed better lighting. Our home started to feel warmer, lived in, like a place where a real future could grow. But the cracks were already there. Money was always tight. His business got some jobs, lost others. There were delays. Clients argued about payments. Equipment broke at the worst possible times. I picked up extra shifts. I dipped into my savings. I stopped buying little things for myself. He always promised to pay me back. "You're not investing in me," he'd say, pulling me into his arms. "You're investing in us." It was hard to argue with that. Then came the arrest. It was a cold night in January when there was a knock at our door, loud and sharp. 2 officers stood in the hallway, their faces serious. "Ryan Miller," one of them asked. Ryan stepped forward, confused. "Yeah, what's this about?" "You need to come with us," the officer said. "We have some questions regarding a fraud investigation." My stomach dropped. "There must be a mistake," I stammered. "He hasn't done anything wrong." They let him put on his jacket. They didn't handcuff him, but I saw the way they positioned themselves just in case. He looked back at me with wide, frightened eyes. "Call our lawyer," he whispered. "Call Ava. She knows my accounts better than anyone." They took him away. I stood in the doorway, shaking, watching the red and blue lights fade down the street. At the station, they kept him for hours. I sat on a hard plastic chair in the lobby, clutching my phone, calling whoever I could think of. Ava arrived, her hair pulled back, face set in that focused, professional expression she wore at work. "Okay," she said, dropping into the chair beside me. "Tell me everything they said." I shrugged helplessly. "Something about fraud. I don't know, they just took him." She frowned. "I've seen some strange withdrawals and transfers in his accounts," she admitted. "I thought he was just juggling payments. I didn't want to accuse him of anything. But if they have enough to bring him in—" I interrupted her. "You think he did something illegal?" "I think he's desperate," she said, "and desperate people cross lines." I felt my body go rigid. "He wouldn't. He's not like that." She sighed. Just because someone's been hurt by life doesn't mean they can't hurt others." I dug my nails into my palm. "He's trying. He's fighting. He just needs support." She looked at me with a mixture of pity and frustration. "You're allowed to love him and still hold him accountable, you know." They finally let him go just after midnight. He came out looking exhausted, the stubble on his jaw darker, his shoulders slumped. "They're accusing me of falsifying invoices," he said, collapsing onto the bench beside me. "They say I billed for work I didn't do. They dug up every late payment, every dispute, and they've twisted it all." "Did you?" I asked softly, hating myself for asking, hating myself more for needing to hear him say no. He looked at me like I'd slapped him. "You think I'm capable of that?" I shook my head quickly. "No, I've been fighting alone my entire life," he snapped. "I thought with you, I finally had someone on my side. If you don't trust me, then what do I have?" His voice cracked on the last word. My anger melted into guilt. "I'm on your side," I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. "I'll always be on your side." He pulled me into his arms, burying his face in my neck. "You're all I have, Em. Don't leave me like everyone else." I held him and promised myself I wouldn't. I promised myself we would survive this. I didn't know that the person I was fighting so hard to save was already building a future that didn't include me alive. We got married 6 months later. It wasn't a big wedding, just a courthouse, a simple white dress, a rented suit. My parents came, nervous but supportive. Ava stood beside me as my witness, holding my bouquet while I signed papers that legally tied my life to his. He cried during the vows. Real tears, or at least tears that looked real. His voice shook when he promised to protect me, to cherish me, to fight for us. I said I do, with my whole heart. As a married couple, we went deeper into each other's lives. Our finances intertwined. Our names appeared together on bills, on leases, on documents. That was when he first brought up the idea of life insurance. "We should be smart about the future," he said one night, lying on the couch with his head in my lap. "If something happens to me, I don't want you buried in my debts. And if something happens to you, I don't know what I'd do." I ran my fingers through his hair. "Nothing's going to happen to us." He smiled sadly. "Tell that to the economy and my luck." He set up a meeting with an insurance agent. I sat in the small office, listening as they explained policies and coverage, numbers and terms. The agent recommended policies for both of us. Standard marital planning, they called it. Responsible. Mature. Ryan pushed for a larger policy on me. "She's the stable one," he said. "She has better health, better job security. It's cheaper to insure her." The agent nodded, like it all made sense. I signed where they told me to sign. I didn't read every line. I trusted Ryan to have my best interests at heart. Looking back, I would give anything to go back to that office and rip those papers up. After the policy was in place, life didn't suddenly improve like I naively hoped it would. The fraud investigation dragged on. Ryan's business continued to struggle. He got more irritable, more withdrawn. He started taking calls on the balcony, speaking in low tones late into the night. I asked who he was talking to. He said it was suppliers, clients, lawyers. He said it wasn't anything I needed to worry about. He said he wanted to shield me from stress. Meanwhile, I was working overtime to cover our bills. My paychecks vanished into rent, utilities, groceries, and payments on loans I had co-signed for him. My savings shrank to almost nothing. A small part of me resented him. A larger part of me drowned that resentment with guilt. He had been through so much. Who was I to complain about being tired? The first sign that something was deeply wrong came in the form of a near-death accident. It was a Thursday night when Ryan asked me to drop off some paperwork for him. "Just swing by this address and hand the envelope to a guy named Marcus," he said, scribbling the address on a Post-it. "He'll be waiting outside. It's just some documents for a contract. He needs them tonight." "Can't you go?" I asked. "I'm exhausted." "I have a call with my attorney," he said. "This could impact the case." "Please, babe. You're better at talking to people anyway. Just hand it to him and come back. It's a 15-minute drive." I looked at the clock. It was already past 9. The sky outside was dark, rain starting to tap against the windows. "It looks like it's going to storm," I said. He placed his hands on my shoulders, looking into my eyes. "I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. You're the only person I trust with this." That sentence got me like it always did. "Okay," I said. "I'll go." The address he gave me was in an industrial area on the outskirts of town, a place I didn't know well, full of warehouses and empty lots. By the time I got there, the rain had gotten worse. My windshield wipers struggled to keep up. I turned onto a narrow side street lined with half-abandoned buildings and flickering street lamps. There were no cars parked on the curb, no people walking around. It was the kind of place where sound felt swallowed. My GPS announced that I had arrived. I pulled over, squinting through the rain. No one was there. I waited a few minutes, checking my phone. No signal. Of course, the one time I needed to call. I was about to turn around and go home when I saw them. 2 men stepped out from behind a parked delivery truck a little down the street. They started walking toward my car slowly, not like people caught in the rain, but like people who had all the time in the world. My heart started pounding. I told myself they were just workers. I locked my doors anyway. They reached my window. One of them, a tall man with a hood pulled over his head, tapped on the glass. His smile was wrong. Too slow. Too deliberate. "Roll it down, ma'am," he called. "We're here for the paperwork." My instincts screamed at me. Everything in me wanted to slam the car into reverse and get out of there. But I thought of Ryan. I thought of how much he needed this contract. I thought of how he said he trusted only me. I cracked the window an inch. "What's your name?" I asked. He looked at the other man, then back at me. Marcus. It sounded rehearsed. I'll just slip the envelope through, I said. He shook his head. Nah, you should step out, in case we need to sign anything. The other man drifted toward the back of my car, glancing around. My fingers tightened on the steering wheel. No, that's okay, I said. Ryan didn't say anything about signatures. The man's smile disappeared. His eyes went flat. Get out of the car. Something snapped inside me. I shook my head. No. He tried the door handle. When it didn't budge, his expression turned angry. He slammed his palm against the window, making me jump. I threw the car into reverse, tires screeching on the wet pavement. The man shouted, banging on the side of the car. The other one started running alongside, reaching for the handle on the passenger side. For a second, I thought they would break the window. Headlights flashed behind me suddenly. A truck, big and fast, turned into the street, horn blaring. The men froze, then backed away quickly, one of them pulling a mask up over his face as they disappeared between two buildings. I pressed the gas and swerved around the truck, my hands shaking so badly I could barely steer. I didn't stop driving until I reached a busy main road with other cars, other people, other lives. I pulled into a gas station and sat there, breathing hard, my body trembling. The truck that had turned into the street earlier pulled in a few minutes later. A man in his 30s with dark hair and a worn baseball cap got out and walked over to my car. Are you okay? He asked, concern etched across his features. I rolled down the window halfway. I think those men were trying to rob me, I stammered. They said they were waiting for documents, but something felt wrong. Yeah, it looked wrong from where I was, he said. I saw them stalking your car. That's why I came in like that. They took off as soon as they saw another vehicle. Thank you, I whispered. You scared them away. He shrugged like it was nothing. Look, I don't know what you were doing in that area at this hour, but don't go back there alone. It's not safe. And next time, if someone gives you an address like that, question it. He paused, like he was deciding whether to say more. You should tell whoever sent you there that their business partners are trouble. His words lodged in my brain like a shard of glass. Can I give you a ride somewhere? He offered. Or follow you home? Just to make sure you get there. I shook my head. I'll be okay. I just need a minute. Thank you. Really. Name's Nick, he said, tapping the side of my car gently. If you ever see this truck again and you're in trouble, just wave me down. I nodded, not trusting my voice. On the drive home, my thoughts spiraled. The men, the way they approached, the way they insisted I get out, the convenient lack of cell signal, the fact that Ryan knew exactly where he was sending me. When I walked into our apartment, Ryan was sitting at the table, scrolling through his phone. He looked up, relief washing over his face. You're back, he said. You took longer than I thought. I stood there, dripping from the rain, staring at him. There was no Marcus, I said slowly, just two men trying to get me out of the car. His brow furrowed. What? Are you serious? Did they hurt you? No, I replied. A truck pulled in and they ran off. He stood up quickly, crossing the room in a few strides. He cupped my face in his hands, inspecting me. Oh my God, Em, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Marcus is a real guy, I swear. He must have been late. I would never send you somewhere dangerous on purpose. His eyes glittered like he was about to cry. I was so scared, I whispered, my body finally catching up with what had almost happened. My knees went weak, and he pulled me into a hug, rocking me gently. I'm sorry, he murmured into my hair. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. Everything is always my fault. I held on to him, letting his guilt drown out my doubt, because the alternative, that he had knowingly sent me into danger, was too terrifying to face. That night, after he fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Images flashed in my mind. The dead-end street, the men, the truck, the way Ryan's face had shifted from blank to worried just a little too quickly when I told him what happened. The way he hadn't asked any follow-up questions about their appearance, about what exactly they said. A seed of fear took root in my chest. The next morning, I decided to check something I had never checked before. While Ryan was in the shower, I took his phone. My hands trembled, not just because I was invading his privacy, but because I was afraid of what I might find. His phone wasn't locked. That, somehow, made me feel even worse, like I was the one doing something wrong. I went through his messages. Most were what I expected: clients, suppliers, spam. Then I saw a thread with an unsaved number from the previous day. "Make sure she comes alone," the text said. A reply from Ryan. "She thinks it's about paperwork. Don't screw this up." My vision blurred for a second. I scrolled further. Same number. "We'll make it look like a robbery. Nothing will trace back. You get your money, we get ours. Ryan. Do it clean, no mess. I don't want questions." My throat closed. I scrolled to the top of the conversation and saw the first message from weeks earlier. "You sure you want to go through with this?" the unknown number had asked. Ryan's answer. "Yes, I'm out of options. The policy is in place. This is the only way I survive." My body went cold. Policy. I dropped the phone on the bed like it had burned me. The shower turned off in the bathroom. I quickly picked up the phone, placed it exactly where he had left it, and sat down, pretending to scroll through my emails on my own phone. He walked out moments later, towel around his waist, hair wet. He smiled at me, that same crooked, wounded smile that had pulled me in at the beginning. "You okay?" he asked. "You look pale." "I didn't sleep well," I lied. He kissed my forehead. "Take it easy today. You've been through enough." The words from his messages echoed inside me. I stared at his back as he got dressed, and it felt like I was looking at a stranger wearing my husband's skin. After he left for a meeting, I stood in the middle of our bedroom, surrounded by the quiet weight of our shared life, and understood that I had a choice to make. I could confront him immediately, demand answers, scream, cry, throw him out. Or I could do the one thing he never expected from me. I could be smarter than him. I went to work, my body moving on autopilot. Smile at clients, review applications, stamp approvals, decline loans. My mind stayed somewhere else, replaying those messages over and over. At lunch, I texted Ava. "Can we meet tonight?" I wrote. "It's urgent." She replied almost immediately. "Of course. My place at 7? I agreed. At 7, I stood in her apartment, clutching a mug of tea she'd made me, staring at the floor. "What's going on?" she asked gently. "You're scaring me." I took a deep breath. "I think Ryan tried to set me up last night. I think those men were supposed to kill me." Her eyes widened. "Emily, that's a huge accusation." I nodded, tears slipping down my cheeks. "I know. That's why I didn't want to believe it. But I saw messages on his phone. He told someone to make sure she comes alone. They talked about making it look like a robbery. They said something about the policy." "The policy," she repeated slowly. "You mean the life insurance?" I nodded again. She sat down heavily. "Oh my God. I need help," I whispered. "I don't know what to do. If I go to him, he'll lie. If I go to the police without proof, they might not believe me. They already think he's shady, but this is different. I need something solid." She rubbed her temples, thinking. "Okay, first, you need to make copies of anything you've seen. Screenshots, emails, documents. Second," she hesitated, "I might know someone who can help you collect evidence properly, not just grabbing random screenshots. Someone who knows how to build a case." "Who?" I asked. "An old friend," she said. "His name's Jason. He used to work in law enforcement. Now he does private security and investigations. He's discreet, and he hates men who hurt women." I felt a flicker of hope. "Can you introduce me?" She nodded. "Tomorrow. But Emily, until then you need to act normal. If he suspects you know anything, he might panic. And cornered men are dangerous." I pictured Ryan's face when he was angry, the way his jaw clenched, the way his eyes went cold. I swallowed hard. "I can do that," I said, even though I wasn't sure how. That night, I went home to a man who kissed me at the door and asked how my day was. I smiled. I told him it was fine. I asked about his meeting. I cooked dinner. I laughed at his jokes. I let him hold me in bed while my mind planned how to destroy him. The next day, I met Jason. He was taller than I expected, with close-cropped dark hair and calm gray eyes that studied me like he was reading a file. We sat in a quiet corner of a cafe, the clatter of dishes and low hum of conversation around us. "Tell me everything," he said. I told him about the life insurance policy, the arrest, the near robbery, the text messages. As I talked, his expression didn't change much, but his jaw tightened occasionally. "Do you still have access to his phone?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "He doesn't lock it." "Good," he replied. "You'll need to take screenshots of those conversations and send them to me. Also, any documents you can find about the policy. If he forged anything, there will be trails." "Forged?" I repeated. He nodded. "If he wants to make your death look natural, he might have falsified medical records, a supposed heart condition, something to explain why a young, healthy woman suddenly dies." A chill ran down my spine. "I've never had a heart condition." "Exactly," he said. "So if there's a paper that says you do, we have another piece of the puzzle." "How do I find that without him noticing?" I asked. "You said he keeps files in the apartment?" he asked. "Yes, in the closet, in a locked box." Jason smiled slightly. "Do you know where the key is?" I thought of the drawer on his side of the bed, the one he always kept half closed, the one he reached into before meetings. "I think so." "Then you have a window," he said. "When he showers, when he goes out, you'll have to move fast, photograph everything, and put it back exactly how you found it. He can't suspect anything. Meanwhile, I'll start checking into his background, the men he's been talking to, his financial records, if we can get them." "What about the police?" I asked. "Shouldn't I tell them right away?" "We will," he said, "but not with half a story and no clear evidence. We're dealing with someone who has already taken steps to cover his tracks. When we go to them, we go with enough that they can't ignore it." I nodded, my hands wrapped tightly around my coffee cup. "Emily," he said, his voice softer, "this is going to be hard. You're going to have to keep living with him for a while, pretending everything is normal. Can you do that?" I thought of Ryan's hands on my body, his voice whispering, "I love you," in the dark. I thought of his messages to hired criminals, planning my death like it was a business transaction. "Yes," I said. "If it keeps me alive and puts him where he belongs, I can." The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. I became an actress in my own home. I laughed when he made jokes. I let him complain about money. I listened as he ranted about how unfair the fraud investigation was, how the system was stacked against him. I kissed him. I slept next to him. I woke up beside him, and every moment I watched him. When he showered, I opened his drawer and took the small key taped under the bottom panel. My heart hammered in my chest as I crossed the room to the closet. The lock on the metal box clicked open softly. Inside were neatly stacked folders labeled with dates and vague titles: contracts, bills, policies. I found the life insurance folder and opened it. There was more than what I had seen at the agent's office. A medical report with my name on it, signed by a doctor I had never met. It said I had a mild arrhythmia. It recommended monitoring and listed sudden cardiac arrest as a potential, though rare, outcome. I took photos of every page with my phone. There were also handwritten notes, lists of debts, names and phone numbers, rough timelines, and one chilling line written in his messy handwriting: "Once payout comes through, everything resets." I didn't need to ask what that meant. I knew. I sent the photos to Jason from a hidden chat app he had installed on my phone, one that looked like a simple calculator. He replied quickly, "Got them. This is good. Very good. The doctor's license number is on here. I'll look into him. Meanwhile, keep an eye on any new medicine he offers you. Pills, drinks, anything." I read that message sitting at my desk at work, my stomach twisting. I thought about the vitamins he kept pushing lately, the heart support supplements he claimed he'd bought because I was so stressed. That night, when he slid a small white tablet toward me at dinner, I smiled and picked it up. "Thank you," I said. He watched carefully as I brought it to my lips. At the last moment, I dropped it and let it fall under the table. "Oops," I laughed. "I'm so clumsy." He tensed, then forced a chuckle. "It's fine. I'll get you another one tomorrow." After dinner, I swept it up and put it in a plastic bag. Later, I gave it to Jason. He had it tested. It wasn't a simple vitamin. It wasn't lethal in one dose, the lab said, but taken over time, it would strain my heart, especially if combined with other substances, enough to trigger a sudden event in someone with a documented heart condition. The strategy was clear now. Poison me slowly. Push my body until it failed in a way that matched the forged report. Cry at my funeral. Cash the check. Jason took everything to a detective he trusted, a woman named Detective Hall. They met in private. No official recorded statement yet. Not until we had one more piece. Intent is clear, she said after reviewing everything. But if we catch him in the act, we can bury him in charges. We need him to move again. We need him to try one more time while we're watching. That was how the trap was born. It started with a lie of my own. One evening, sitting on the couch with Ryan, I sighed heavily and said, I got an email about a work mixer next Friday. They're hosting it at that new rooftop bar downtown. Spouses are invited. It's a big networking thing. His eyes lit up a little. Fancy. Yeah, I said. I don't really want to go, but my boss is hinting that it's important. I thought maybe if you came, it would be more fun. Free drinks, nice view. For one night, we could pretend everything's okay. He hesitated, then nodded. Sure, might be nice to dress up and feel normal for once. What I didn't tell him was that there was no work mixer. The rooftop bar was real, though. Jason and Detective Hall chose it for a reason. Multiple cameras, good security, limited exits, lots of witnesses. Over the next few days, I noticed Ryan's behavior shift. He was calmer, more affectionate. He complimented me more. He hummed while he cooked. He seemed relieved, like someone who finally saw the finish line. The night of the mixer, I put on a black dress Ava had helped me choose months ago, before any of this, for a completely different event. It clung to my waist, skimmed my knees, and made me feel both exposed and strong. Ryan stared at me when I stepped out of the bedroom. You look incredible, he said. They're not going to be able to stop looking at you. Good, I said lightly. Let them. He adjusted his tie in the mirror, then reached for his jacket. As he slipped it on, a small brown glass bottle fell out of the inner pocket, hitting the floor with a soft thud. My breath caught. He froze, then bent to pick it up. His face stayed neutral, but his fingers were a little too stiff. What's that? I asked. He forced a laugh. Just some drops. For my anxiety. The doctor recommended them. It's been a stressful week. He slid the bottle back into his pocket before I could see the label. We took a rideshare to the rooftop bar. Jason was already there, dressed like any other patron, leaning against the far side of the deck with a drink in hand. Detective Hall was at a corner table, disguised as someone's date. 2 more officers were scattered throughout, looking like regular guests. Ryan didn't notice them. His focus was on the bar, the view, and me. This place is nice, he said, scanning the skyline. You sure this is in your budget? It's on the company, I said with a smile I didn't feel. At least, that's what the email said. We ordered drinks. I watched every move he made, every glance toward the bartender, every time his hand brushed his pocket. While he was talking to another guest, one of Jason's contacts pretending to be my coworker, I excused myself to the bathroom. In the hallway, I found Jason waiting near the service door. You ready? He asked quietly. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I think he has something in his pocket, I whispered. A bottle. Good, he replied. Let him use it. How do I drink it without actually drinking it? I asked. He handed me a small rubber bulb hidden in his hand. Squeeze this into your mouth and hold. Then, when you pretend to swallow, you can drop the liquid into this napkin. It'll look like you drank, but you won't. It felt like something out of a movie, except this was my real life. Emily, he added, his eyes serious, if at any point you feel unsafe, step away. We're watching. We won't let anything happen to you. I nodded and went back out. When I returned to the table, Ryan had 2 drinks waiting. One had a small slice of lime on the rim. The other had a lemon twist. The lime was on the side closer to my seat. I ordered your favorite, he said. Margarita, extra salt. Thanks, I said, sitting down. We talked, or rather, he talked, and I nodded. He kept glancing at my glass. At one point, while I was laughing at something he said, he subtly placed his hand over my drink, as if to keep it from being knocked over. When he lifted it again, there was a faint chemical smell under the lime. My palms grew damp. He raised his own glass. "To surviving," he said. "To new beginnings." I picked up mine and clinked it against his. "To new beginnings," I echoed. He watched me as I lifted the glass to my lips. Every muscle in my body screamed not to do it. Instead, I pressed the rubber bulb from Jason under my tongue, letting a few drops of the real drink in, then tipped my head back, pretending to swallow. I lowered the glass, dabbing my lips with the napkin, discreetly releasing the poisonous mouthful into its folds. Ryan exhaled slowly. His shoulders relaxed. "There you go," he said. "Just relax. Enjoy tonight. We deserve a little peace, don't we?" I smiled faintly. "Yeah, we do." We sat there for a while. He finished his drink. I pretended to sip mine, letting the liquid touch my lips, but not my tongue. I kept my eyes on his face, seeing everything and nothing all at once. After about 15 minutes, he leaned closer. "You okay?" he asked. "You look a little flushed." "I'm fine," I said. "Just a little warm." He smiled, almost tenderly. "If you feel dizzy, just lean on me. I've got you." The words made me want to throw up. Jason made his move then. He approached our table, acting drunk. "Emily," he said, "there you are. Your boss is looking for you near the entrance." "My boss?" I repeated, playing along. "Yeah," he said. "Something about some report you submitted." He turned to Ryan. "Sorry, man. I'll bring her back." Ryan shrugged, looking only mildly annoyed. "Hurry, our table's great." I stood up, my knees a little shaky, not from poison, but from adrenaline. As soon as we were a few steps away, Jason dropped the act. "We've got his glass and your napkin," he said. "The lab team is downstairs. The detectives are ready. All we need now is to see his reaction when you collapse." "Collapse?" I echoed. He nodded. "We can't actually drug you, but we can make him think he succeeded." "How?" I asked. "We'll stage it near the elevator," he said. "You sit down, say you feel strange. We'll have a medic on standby. Hidden cameras are recording. We'll watch his face. If he runs, if he panics, if he says anything incriminating, it's just more evidence." My legs felt weak. "Okay," I said. "Okay." We reached the elevator lobby. There, Detective Hall was leaning against the wall, pretending to scroll her phone. Another officer in plain clothes stood near the corner. "Ready?" she asked. I nodded. I took a few steps toward the elevator, then stopped, letting my body sag slightly. "I feel weird," I said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Dizzy." I put a hand to my chest and let myself sink onto the bench. Jason shouted, "Somebody get her husband!" Ryan appeared within seconds, rushing toward me, his face a mixture of worry and anticipation. "Em," he said, kneeling in front of me. "What's wrong?" "I don't know," I gasped, faking short breaths. "My heart, it's racing." He grabbed my hand. His fingers were ice cold. "It's okay," he said. "It's okay. Just breathe. You're probably just tired." His words sounded caring. His eyes did not. There was something like satisfaction flickering there, quickly suppressed. "Did she drink anything unusual tonight?" Detective Hall asked, stepping closer, playing her part as a concerned bystander. "She had one margarita," he said, glancing at her. "Why?" "Any medical conditions?" she asked. "She has a slight heart issue," he replied automatically. "Doctor said there was a small risk. It's in her file." That was it. That was the line. He had just referenced a forged document like it was real, in front of witnesses, right after giving me a drink he had likely tampered with. His plan, spoken aloud. Detective Hall's expression turned cold. "Ryan Miller," she said, standing up straight. "I'm Detective Hall with the city police. You're under arrest for attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder, among other charges." His face went white. "What? Are you insane? She's my wife. She's sick. She needs help." "She's not sick," Jason said calmly, "and we've tested your drink. The one you pushed on her all night." 2 officers stepped in, grabbing his arms. He struggled, his panicked eyes darting between them and me. "Emily, tell them," he shouted. "Tell them I would never hurt you. Tell them you're just stressed." I sat up slowly, my breathing evening out. I looked him straight in the eyes. "You tried to kill me," I said. "You hired men to ambush me on that street. You forged medical records. You poisoned my pills. You laced my drink tonight. I stood by you when everyone else walked away, and you used my love as a weapon." His expression twisted. For a second, I saw the real him. No charm, no wounded boy, just cold fury. "You were supposed to save me," he spat. "You were supposed to be my way out. That's what you wanted, right? To be the hero. I just gave you a role." The officers pulled him back. He kept yelling as they dragged him toward the stairs. "You think they'll stand by you when you're alone? You think anyone will love you like I did? You just destroyed us both." "Stop talking," Detective Hall said, following them. "You're only helping us." As they disappeared, my body finally relaxed. I slumped against the bench, shaking. "It's over," Jason said, sitting beside me. "You did it." I let out a sob, half relief, half heartbreak. "Did I, though?" I whispered. "Because it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like something died." He nodded. "Something did, but not you. That's what matters." The weeks that followed were a blur of statements, meetings, and court dates. They traced the men from the industrial street through phone records tied to the number in Ryan's messages. They flipped one of them, who admitted they were paid to scare me into an accident that would look like a robbery gone wrong. They found the doctor who had signed the fake report. Under pressure, he confessed to altering my file in exchange for cash. The insurance company cooperated fully once they realized they had almost paid out on a murder plot. They handed over recordings of the calls Ryan had made, in which he asked very specific questions about how soon the payout would come in if something sudden happened to my wife. In court, Ryan's defense tried to paint him as a broken man under financial distress. They said his messages were dark fantasies, not real plans. They said he regretted everything, that he had never truly intended to go through with it. The evidence said otherwise. I took the stand and told my story from beginning to end, how I met him, how I defended him, how I ignored everyone who warned me, how I nearly died on a dark street, how I found the messages, the forged report, the pills, the drink. "Do you still love him?" the defense attorney asked, trying to catch me off guard. I thought about it, really thought about it. "I loved the person I thought he was," I said. "But that person never really existed. He was just a mask a dangerous man wore to get what he wanted." "Do you feel responsible?" he pressed. "For ignoring the warnings? For helping him with his finances? For supporting him when others walked away?" I swallowed. "I feel responsible for not listening to my own instincts," I said. "For believing my love could save him. But I am not responsible for his decision to kill me. That choice was his, and his alone." The courtroom was silent. The judge's gaze softened slightly. In the end, the jury found him guilty on all major charges: attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, forgery. The judge sentenced him to 30 years in prison. He didn't look at me as they led him out. He stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, like the world had betrayed him, not the other way around. I walked out of the courthouse into bright sunlight, my body light and heavy all at once. Healing didn't happen immediately. It didn't happen just because he was behind bars. For months, I flinched when my phone buzzed, half expecting a message from an unknown number. I avoided dark streets. I changed locks. I double-checked my medicine bottles every time I went to the pharmacy. I went to therapy. I sat in a small room with neutral-colored walls and told a stranger how I had built my life around saving a man who was busy planning my death. How I had confused loyalty with self-destruction. How I had watched my own common sense crumble under the weight of my feelings. My therapist didn't call me stupid. She called me conditioned. "You were trained to see his pain as more important than your safety," she said. "You were taught to believe that love means standing by someone no matter what. Now you're unlearning that." I rebuilt slowly. I moved to a different apartment, smaller but filled only with things I chose. No tools, no boxes of documents, no hidden poisons. I repainted the walls. I bought plants. I cooked for myself without wondering if someone had tampered with the food. I reconnected with my parents. My mom cried the first time I visited after the trial, apologizing for not protecting me better. "You tried," I said. "I just didn't listen." Ava and I had our own fracture to heal. There were moments when I resented her for introducing me to her friend Jason, because it meant I had to face the truth. There were moments when she resented herself for not pushing me harder to leave sooner. But underneath all of that, there was love. "I'm just glad you're here," she said one night, sitting on my couch with a glass of wine. Alive, breathing, annoyed at me. I laughed through tears. "I don't know who I am without someone to fix," I admitted. She smiled. "Maybe that's the point. You get to figure that out now, without him." 1 year after his sentencing, I went back to the rooftop bar. It felt almost surreal to stand there, looking out over the same skyline that had watched me fake a collapse to catch my husband. The lights of the city blinked like distant stars. Music played softly behind me. People laughed, oblivious to the ghosts I was facing. I walked to the exact spot where I had sat with him, the night he tried to end me and start over with my death money. I placed my hands on the railing and took a deep breath. "I survived you," I whispered, not to the air, but to the memory of him. "You took so much from me, but you didn't take everything. You didn't take my ability to love myself. You didn't take my future." For the first time, I believed it. I don't know if I'll ever get married again. I don't know if I'll ever trust as blindly as I did with Ryan. Honestly, I hope I don't. Blind trust is not love. It's surrender. What I do know is this: I will never again fight harder for someone than they are willing to fight for themselves. I will never again put my life on the line to rescue a person who is quietly planning my ruin. I stood by him when everyone else walked away. I defended him against rumors, failures, and even crimes I chose not to see. The deeper I fought to save him, the more I destroyed myself. And in the end, when it mattered, he didn't pick me. He picked money. He picked freedom at the cost of my life. He never fought for me. But I fought for myself in the end. I gathered evidence. I set the trap. I watched justice catch up to him. I gave myself a second chance that he would never have offered me. If you're listening to my story and you feel that knot in your stomach, if you recognize pieces of your life in mine, please hear me clearly. Love does not ask you to die for it. Not in your body, not in your spirit, not in your dreams. If you are the only one fighting, if you are the only one sacrificing, if the person you're defending keeps giving you reasons to question them, don't ignore that. Trust your instincts more than their excuses. You are not crazy for seeing red flags. You are not disloyal for walking away. You are not unloving for choosing your own life over someone else's chaos. If my story touched you, if it made you think of someone you know or of yourself, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone who needs a reminder that they are worth more than someone else's desperation. Tell me in the comments what part of my journey hit you the hardest, or what you would have done. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop fighting for the person who would never fight for you, and finally, start fighting for yourself.